Weeks away from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 hitting AMC Theatres on May 2nd, and it appears audiences who see the film are going to get a little surprised during the credits. According to reports, instead of a Spider-Man credit scene, the audience will instead see a scene from the upcoming X-Men Days of Future Past. This has spurred online fans to speculate if this points to a future Sony-Fox film for a Spider-Man X-Men crossover. John, are we about to see a crossover film?
No. It's so funny. I mean, last night, my Twitter, I'm sure it's the same with all of you guys. My Twitter, my Facebook, my email started blowing up saying, John, it's been confirmed. This is, and some people have seen it, have actually seen it screened, that, you know, in the end credits of Spider-Man, instead of a Spider-Man thing, we see Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, and we see Toad, and we see Havoc, and this scene going on. What does this mean? It doesn't mean anything. Here's what happened. Variety and The Hollywood Reporter are both reporting this story, and it's pretty believable. So there is an expectation now in, especially comic book movies, but almost any actionier genre kind of film, that if you stick around, there's going to be seen in the credits. Spider-Man is not in any place prepared to put in any kind of end credit scene that teases any of their upcoming projects. Whether it's going to be The Amazing Spider-Man 3, Sinister 6, Venom, they're just not in a place they can do anything like that. Now, director Mark Webb, as the story goes, and maybe you guys can shed some more light on this, director Mark Webb was under contract with Fox, who of course does the X-Men, for another film. But they let him go to go and do The Amazing Spider-Man 2 for Sony because Fox and Sony worked out a deal that Sony would help them promote the new X-Men movie. I don't think they really figured out how at the time, but then it became clear. How? Well, Spider-Man doesn't have an end credit scene. We have an obligation to Fox to help them promote that one particular movie because of the deal we made for getting the services of Mark Webb. Therefore, we're going to put this this mid-credit scene of X-Men Days of Future Past as a way to promote it. That's really all there is to it. There's, as far as I understand, there's nothing more to it than that. Don, you've been seeing this and following this. So, like, what's your perception of all this?
No, I think you're right on the money with that. You know, there is the fan dream that one day all the Marvel universes will come together and cross over, and we'll have the Fantastic Four teaming up with the Avengers and Spidey swinging around with Tony Stark, but that's not going to happen for a long time. And there is precedent for this, too. A couple of years ago, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, the IMAX screenings of that, had an IMAX prologue of The Dark Knight Rises. Two different studios, two completely unrelated movies, but Warner Brothers saw an opportunity to get an IMAX scene from their new Batman movie on IMAX screens in front of a big, high-profile end-of-the-year blockbuster starring Tom Cruise. And it was kind of mutually beneficial to both studios. Warner Brothers got the exposure for their upcoming Dark Knight film, and Paramount even maybe got some fans into the theaters just to watch that who may or may not have even gone to see the new Mission Impossible movie.
So what you're saying is Tom Cruise is not going to be the next Batman?
I'm fairly certain that Tom Cruise, he was up for Tony Stark, though, once years ago, so you never know what could happen. But no, it's purely, like you said, it's purely a cross-promotional thing. I think the studios see it potentially as mutually beneficial. Will people stay around and watch the X-Men tag? I don't know. That remains to be seen. I think people are more conditioned now to do it with the Marvel Studios, the Marvel Studios proper movies. I don't know if they're so conditioned to do it with a Spider-Man movie necessarily. So how many people see it? Who knows?
Dennis?
Well, I mean, you guys covered what actually is going to happen and what's not going to happen, which is not the crossover. But I want to talk about the reaction to it. It reminds me of NPR did an April Fool's joke on Facebook. They posted a headline that read something like, U.S. doesn't read anymore, something like that. And so all these people posted all these things about how terrible the article was and how bad it was and how off it was, all this stuff. But if you actually click the link, it read in the details that this is an April Fool's joke. Right. This is testing to see if you actually...
To prove that people never actually read it.
Actually read it. And so this is kind of the reaction, too. It's like, if you actually click some of these links to these articles, you read, you're like, oh, okay, this is not a crossover at all. This is just about a payback for letting Mark Webb go. Because he, I guess he just come off 500 Days of Summer, and that was like a big hit, a surprising hit for them. And they're like, okay, now we have a little cachet with this guy as a director. We're not going to let him go for nothing. And so Sony's like, okay, this is the price we'll pay for him.
Yeah.
Mary?
Yeah, I think it's all been said. It boiled down to a contractual obligation that had to be met. I think we also have to look at the slates that have been announced. I think the idea of a crossover wouldn't happen for years and years, even if it was set to happen. I think we're years out from it. I also think it's interesting, to your point about reactions, to just watch the nerdgasm explode on Twitter.
Crazy.
It was so fun though, because this is what I love about film nerds and comic book geeks, is the ability to creatively grasp at all these different facts and put them together and say,
selective
well,
facts.
Yes, exactly. But like Lauren Schuler Donner and Kevin Feige are buddies, and she does the X-Men movies, and you know, obviously he's Marvel, and maybe something will happen. Or, you know, Joss Whedon wrote like the Astonishing X-Men. He wrote like 25 issues, so maybe he's going to helm like an X-Men movie. Or it's just interesting to see what gets pulled out of the ether and into this kind of argument. I really like
I'm
it.
going to admit, I'll admit right up front, the first couple of tweets I got that was like, John, did you hear X-Men scene in the mid-credits of Spider-Man? I just blew that off. It's like, that's coming from Movie Pilot, or that's coming from Cosmic Book Movie News or something. This ain't real. But then I got a few more, and then I saw a link to the Variety thing. And before I read the Variety thing, I'm like, is this real?
Yeah.
And I started getting all excited about the idea of seeing Spider-Man and Wolverine fighting it out or something like that. I was the nerdgasm.
Yeah,
I was the
for sure.
nerdgasm. I'm freaking out, and then it was, oh yeah, this makes sense. This isn't real. Okay.
You know, they teased they tried teasing us once before. They were going to put a shot of the Oscorp building in the Avengers, and they couldn't. So they're kind of aware that people do. I think they're kind of aware that people want to do this stuff, and maybe there's individual people at the studios who like playing around with these things. But the big studios themselves, I mean, they're not going to. These crossovers are.
No, I think they get a kick out of giving us these Easter eggs because they know we love these little things, and so that's cool. Would have been cool to see Oscorp building Avengers. It doesn't mean we're going to see a crossover though.
Hey everyone, if you like this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC movie talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.